Way back in 1998, Australia came up with a law that has a pretty impressive name, the Charter of Budget Honesty. And on the surface, it sounded great. A promise of transparency, a way to make our politicians be upfront about the country's finances. But what if the entire story it tells is, well, wrong?
And that gets us to the real kicker here. While the Charter forces politicians to show their work, are they even solving the right problem? Is the scoreboard it uses actually measuring what's important for a strong economy and a healthy society? Or is it trapping all of us in a dangerously misleading story?
Okay, so first up, let's give the Charter a fair shake. What does it actually claim to do?
At its heart, it's really a show-your-work law. The whole idea is to force the government of the day to publish its economic game plan and give us regular updates. To make it tougher for them to fudge the numbers or move the goalposts whenever they feel like it. It's all about accountability.
Now, this is where it gets really important. The entire framework is built around this idea of sound fiscal management. This all boils down to keeping government debt at so-called prudent levels and making sure our taxes are predictable. It basically sets the rules for what a responsible budget is supposed to look like.
Right, but here's the twist, and it's a big one. Critics argued the entire charter is built on a massive mistake. It treats a whole country, a currency-issuing nation like Australia, as if it were just a giant household that needs to balance its checkbook.
And this quote from the source material, I think, just nails it. The Charter basically trains all of us to worry about the wrong thing. We're taught to ask, can we afford it, in dollar terms, instead of asking the real question, do we actually have the people, the skills, and the resources to get this done?
So let's break this down, because it's like two totally different universes. On one side, you've got the Charter's view. The government is like you or me. It has to get money in from taxes or borrowing before it can spend anything. But the modern view is the total opposite. The government spends first, and that spending creates money. Its real limit isn't some number in a bank account. It's the risk of causing inflation if there isn't enough real stuff for that new money to buy.
And that's the key takeaway, right there. The true discipline on government spending isn't a number on a spreadsheet. It's the real world. The real questions are, do we have enough engineers to build that new rail line? Do we have enough nurses for our hospitals? Do we have the materials we need? That's the real constraint.
And here's the thing. When we're so obsessed with just one number, government debt, we can become completely blind to other dangers, and sometimes much, much bigger dangers.
Yeah, just look at this. It really puts it into perspective. All we ever seem to hear about in political debates is public debt. But as economists like Steve Keen have pointed out for years, the real ticking time bomb is often private debt, all those mortgages and credit cards. And the Charter's framework, it pretty much just ignores it.
And the issues don't stop there. Phrases like tax stability sound perfectly reasonable. Who wouldn't want that? But they can be used as a weapon to protect the status quo, to shield powerful interests, the so-called rent seekers, and shut down any conversation about tax reforms that could, say, tackle inequality. Okay, so this all might sound a bit abstract, but it has a very real, very human cost. What actually happens to the good public purpose when the main goal is just chasing numbers on a spreadsheet?
Well, you really don't have to look far to see the results. To hit those responsible budget targets, what's the first thing that gets cut? It's often essential public investment. We underfund our schools and hospitals, we let our infrastructure crumble, all in the name of looking prudent. We might get a budget surplus, sure, but we often create a massive deficit in our quality of life.
And this just flips the whole idea of intergenerational theft on its head. Politicians love to talk about how government debt is stealing from our kids, right? But think about this. What's the real theft? Is it leaving behind a number on a spreadsheet? Or is it leaving the next generation with rundown schools, a damaged planet, and fewer opportunities because we were too afraid to invest?
So, okay, if the Charter's version of honesty is flawed, what does real honesty, what does real responsibility actually look like?
First things first, we've got to unlearn the story we've all been told. This simple little narrative is so powerful, but for a country like Australia, it's just not how it works. Government bonds aren't like a national credit card. And taxes, their main job isn't to pay for stuff. It's to manage the economy, to control inflation, and to address inequality.
And this is the real danger of that whole myth. It makes building the things we desperately need, better public services, a real transition to clean energy, sound reckless and unaffordable. And at the exact same time, it lets policies that just make the rich richer get dressed up as fiscally responsible.
This table, I think, sums up the whole argument beautifully. It's the two worlds, side by side. The Charter's story says the government is a household, A modern lens says it's a currency issue. The charter says taxes fund spending. The modern view is they manage inflation. Debt is a burden versus debt as a policy tool. And the big one, what's the danger? The charter says public deficits. A modern view says the real dangers are unemployment, inflation, and out-of-control private debt.
So we end up right back where we started, with this idea of honesty. But maybe the question itself has changed. What does a truly honest budget actually care about? Is it about balancing a spreadsheet, or is it about building a thriving nation for everyone, a country with good jobs, strong communities, and a future we can all look forward to? That seems like a conversation really worth having.